My bliss, as you have probably gathered from watching that video, is helping others find bliss in food no matter their dietary constraints. Now, my book, You Can Have It, and my podcast, Have It All, are all about living life to the fullest, no matter what. And you saw that I weighed 200 pounds, so I feel if I can lose that weight and make that kind of transformation, anyone can. Now, at the end of this video, you saw it cut out where Star Jones was about to take a bite of a Big Mac that I made. I really wanted to be on that show because that was one of those shows that they'd bring dietitians on and they'd have them make their food. And granted, it wasn't very good. And then they'd end with, yeah, healthy food doesn't taste good. So I thought that if I could get on that show, then I could completely transform America because people would see that healthy food actually tasted good. So let me take you back to 2006. My first book, Fast Food Fix, is about to come out, and I'm sitting in this conference room with 8 women who are going to be promoting my book. And they have all these ideas like healthy, happy meals, and I was like, great, how about we get me on The View? And one of them looks at me deadpan, and she's like, we couldn't get Martina Navratilova on The View. How are we gonna get you on The View? I knew in that moment that I was gonna get me on The View. And as you can see, I did. So now what happens next here is that Star Jones says, it's better. And Joy says, what's better? She's like, it's better than McDonald's. And then she proceeds to say, well, you didn't even try the real thing. And Star, in television glory, is like, do you really think that I need to try another Big Mac? And the crowd goes wild, and it was television gold. And I knew that forever in my career, this segment would be on my demo reel. Now that definitely was a blissful moment, but it wasn't always that easy for me. Just like other people, I struggled too. I started my career as an actress, and I was such a good actress that I told my manager when I was 27 years old that I was 20 because the teen boom was going on. And she was like, you know what, you're such a young 20. Let's just tell people you're 18. Do you think you can do that? I'm like, okay, I'll try that. So trying to keep all of this straight, I managed booking a series on Fox called When Hidden Cameras Attack that was a recurring role. And then I was up for the movie Scream opposite Neve Campbell. I didn't get that one, but I was getting closer and closer, and I booked this movie called Ed Gein, and things were going pretty well. And then we get this call that these BBC documentary makers were doing this really cool documentary on the road to fame. And they were looking for some young actor or actress who had a manager who totally believed that they were gonna be a huge megastar, but had some obstacle to overcome. So my manager pitches me. Now granted, I already lost my 70 pounds and was 18 pounds less than I am now, so I actually lost like over 80. My manager pitches me as too fat and not hip enough. Now, for England, they were just like, wait, what? Like, I was literally a size 2. So I booked the film, Cameron Manheim, Angelica Houston, Willem Dafoe, all these people are in it, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to be hugely famous. And at the time, I just had this little part. Well, my part was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like they were shooting more days and more days and more days. So I am so excited to go to this premiere. I can't wait. I'm decked out in this. They dressed me up in these black leather pants. They put these fake bra inserts because when I was that skinny, I had no chest left. And, you know, we had to have the right amount of cleavage, the bra strap showing, the whole deal. So I'm decked out in my premiere dress. I go and I sit down, and I literally start crying minutes into the premiere. So we have me running on a treadmill like a crazy person. Here's this crazy American running to be thin. And then we have Angelica Houston saying, yeah, people told me I should get a nose job, but I would never do that. And then I'm running. And Cameron Manheim is like, yeah, people were telling me I was too fat. So here I am, the star of this movie that was basically mortifying. So I tucked that one away and decided to embark upon what I call my premature midlife crisis at 27 years old. Now what am I gonna do? Now, I had been catering as a day job, and I also was teaching people how to make over their favorite foods, losing weight, and so I was like, maybe I can do something there. But I was still pretty, it was a pretty rough period. So I went to visit my grandmother, who's the one who taught me how to cook to begin with, and there we are making homemade pasta because, well, you should be eating pasta when you're in crisis. And all of a sudden, on the television comes The View. And Meredith Vieira is doing this thing called Meredith's Club, where she and a dietitian who will remain nameless was ostracizing these 5 kids, trying to get them to lose weight on national television. And there was a 13-year-old girl who wasn't losing, and they were like, "Why aren't you losing weight?" And she's like, "I don't want to eat plain chicken and steamed broccoli. I don't want to eat baked potatoes," in the whiniest voice she could muster. And all of a sudden, it hit me. This is what I was good at. I was her at 13. When I gave up the ho-hos and the pizza that I was eating in school every day and tried to take tuna in a thermos, kids made even more fun of me. So that's what I decided to do, what I call the flip. And I immediately picked up the phone and I called The View. I really did, from my grandmother's kitchen in Philadelphia. And they're like, "Oh, no, we already have a dietitian." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. I'm not a dietitian. I will help the dietitian. For 10 more calories, I can make her chicken fingers and French fries." They're like, "No, we already have a dietitian." I'm like, "Okay." But I knew I was onto something. So I decided to take my acting skills and do what I knew best. Go make a demo tape. Because you can't get on television if you don't have tape, though you can't have tape unless you're on television, unless you come up with this whole scheme to take all your actor friends to your kitchen and do this demo reel called A Slice of Devin, where I just did these little cooking lessons with each person and put them together with the plan of, when anyone asked, "Oh, it was a video series that went direct to distribution." It totally worked. So once I had that in hand and was really aware of what was going on in the cooking scene, I hit Craigslist and I literally started booking television. And one of my favorite segments ever, I was thrown on Discovery Health's National Body Challenge. Now, for those of you who've never seen that, it predated Biggest Loser, and they would starve people for weeks, and then they would compete with another family to lose weight. So they had been starving for 2 weeks. And next thing I know, I am showing up there and I'm going to teach them how to make nachos, which are like the easiest thing to make over healthy. And so they pull me out and they tell them that they're going to get to eat nachos. And literally, I kid you not, you would think that these people won the lottery. Like, they were jumping up and down screaming, and I was the lottery. How could I not love this? Then I was sure I was onto something. So next thing you know, I'm on Home and Garden Network, I'm on Style Network this show called You're Invited, then I get on Good Morning America, I have my own series on Discovery Health, I have books, and I even get a New York Times best-selling award. Like, this is pretty cool. Now, I think with everything, when you start taking small steps, including weight loss, you definitely, it builds and builds and builds, and that's what it takes, and I really encourage people to take small steps. But I also really wanted to think about what those 3 steps are that really got me where I was on the journey of living my bliss. Now, number 1, do what it takes. It's true, my father used to say, "Keep on keeping on." And you can ask my sister in the audience, we were like, okay. But he was right. I call it do what it takes, and maybe be a stalker. There's a picture of brownies here because the truth is, for years, I wore jeans because I was dropping these baskets of desserts off because I really just needed people to taste how good my healthy food was. I mean, I'm not the girl putting tofu in brownies. Like, this stuff is good. So I literally there was one time that I booked a TV series or a TV show because I was sitting outside somebody's building until I saw them get out of their car, and then I just kind of snuck in the elevator with them, and I was like, "Oh, hi, you're Rob Weller, aren't you?" Next thing you know, I'm on his show. Number 2, I woo-hooed my way to success. If you were to ask your friend, "What are you doing this weekend?" and they're like, "Going to the museum," okay, you're kind of done. But what if that same friend was like, "Going to the museum"? Well, that just begs all sorts of questions, right? Like, oh my God, what museum? Are you going to an exhibit? That's kind of how I live my life. Like, if you're that excited about what you're doing, even back in the day when people didn't think healthy food tasted good, I was like, I make over your favorite foods. They're just gonna get on board. And then also in my office culture, like, we don't send best or thank you. Like, I literally train my employees to be as authentic as they can, writing things like, "You rock," or "Woohoo," or "I'm so excited." And then it just sets a completely different vibe when you show up somewhere. Now, number 3, believe you're lucky. How many people have bought a lottery ticket tonight? If you didn't buy a lottery ticket, that's totally okay. I didn't either, but it's not because I don't think I'm lucky. I just haven't really had time yet. But no, seriously, like I for a while believed, I never believed that I wasn't lucky, but I never believed that I was lucky. And then I read this book, Luck Factor, that someone told me about, and it's amazing how your luck changes when you believe you're lucky. And the truth is, if we don't play, we're never lucky. We're not gonna win. Speaking of which, I mentioned back in 2006 that people didn't really think that healthy food tasted good. And when I would say I was on Biggest Loser, people were like, oh, and they had all sorts of comments in many cases. But by like 2010, 2011, when I was still on the show, people would be like, wow, you're so lucky. How did you get on that show? And the truth is, it was a little bit of luck, but the executive producers came from a company called 3Ball. And I had gone to a television conference and done a little stalking so I could meet them in addition to other television producers. And then the parent company was NBC/Reveille, and I did a nice little brownie drop to every executive on the show at NBC. And then Rodale. Now this is where the luck comes in. My first book was coming out through Rodale at the same, like about the same time where Biggest Loser was starting to do a book. So these 3 companies did a list of people that they thought might be good for their book, and I was the only one on all 3 lists. How lucky is that? Now, granted, the Rodale thing was lucky, but even if I'd only been on the other 2, maybe I still would have gotten it. So you can see where, yes, luck is essential, but you also have to set yourself up for it. Now, one of the things that I did not set myself up for in the course of all this bliss that I was living was being a mom, even though it was something that I really, really wanted. And honestly, I had a huge longing in my heart, and I would blow it off as I was watching Up in the Air on an airplane flying around the country, living my bliss. If anyone's seen that movie, it's the one where George Clooney his life is a mess because he's always on a plane. But I thought I'd have 5 kids, and I just would, say to myself, oh, well, when my career takes off, I'll marry the president of a network or something. Like, it was magically gonna happen. Never mind that I spent entire summers writing Biggest Loser cookbooks in record speed. And, I don't know, at the time, I couldn't justify turning Biggest Loser down for my imaginary boyfriend who might someday give me a baby. So I was coaching with somebody because I think coaches are really essential. And she said to me, you act like there's some boat and you missed it. She's like, there's no boat. There's plenty of men, there's plenty of kids. You just have to figure out what you really want and go get it. And I was like, you know what? She's right. In my personal life, I never really did that. And so at 43, I was told that I probably wouldn't be able to get pregnant. And right after that, I decided to put this baby on my vision board because this is the baby that I think that I should have. Right? Doesn't that look like the baby I should have? And then I decided to start taking action. 6 months later, I got this baby from the Los Angeles County foster care system when she was only 3 days old. And please don't anyone take a picture of her. Thank you. Because she still is in the foster care system. I'm hoping to adopt her. But she changed my whole life in ways that I never could have imagined. I mean, in addition to the love that she's brought, I can't even tell you the sense of community I have and all these things that I felt that I was missing out on have suddenly come together in the past year. She turned 11 months yesterday. And the truth is that I had so much fear around becoming a mom that I delayed this. Like in my heart, as I said, I thought I'd have 5 kids, and there's those, well, maybe I'm too selfish. I've just spent 25 years jumping on planes and having champagne and sitting in makeup chairs and doing all these things, and am I gonna have to give that up? Am I gonna like being a mom? But I was the one of my girlfriends who would sit there and be like, God, I'm really bummed that I don't have a daughter. So I'm really glad that I decided to take the leap and do that, because not only does she kind of look like me, so much so that people do think she's my biological daughter, but she literally has added a whole new element for the bliss that I'm going to be pursuing in my career. And she is one of 34,000 children in the Los Angeles County foster care system looking for love the way I also was. Basically, I think when people start looking for their passion, magic happens in their lives, or they start pursuing their passion. And I've gotten to coach some of the most amazing people out there on weight loss, helping people lose as much as 200 pounds. And they always think that I'm gonna come into their kitchen and TV style rip everything out and tell them that they can't eat anything. The truth is, the first thing that I work with anyone on is truly finding their passion and finding their bliss. My wish for everyone here is whatever that voice is in your heart, please don't delay the way I delayed the stuff with my daughter, because as soon as you start taking actions, even if it's small steps to start, I promise you that you're about to be as lucky as I am. Woohoo! Thank you.